There is so much happening in the world of Marvel Rivals, from new character announcements to Funko Pop figures. And speaking of characters, in this video I want to talk about some of the characters I would like to see come to Marvel Rivals. Now, recent reports have told us that in the next week or so we will be getting the Human Torch and the Thing join the Marvel Rivals roster of characters, which I think will be extremely interesting to see the full Fantastic Four in this incredibly fun game. My hopes for Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, is that he'll have infinite flight like Iron Man, so there's some options there when it comes to flying characters. And before he comes to the game, I want to speculate that his ultimate will be something like, you know, a triangle radius where he flies along the shape of the triangle, disappears, and then just sort of appears in the center as a massive fire explosion, and he says like flame on or something, and everyone within the triangle will be an instant KO, but the triangle has to be relatively small, and anyone near the triangle on the outside of it should get some like burn damage or something, so like their health slowly decreases unless they jump into water, for example, like on the Wakanda map with the waterfalls. If they jump into water, that burn damage will fall off, but otherwise they'll stay burning for a while. And perhaps with the Thing, I haven't really thought much about it. I'm assuming because he's like a rocky sort of character, he'll have a lot of shield or armor, so it'll be very hard to sort of get through that, so maybe he'll have a lot of hit points as well, but I can't really think of what his ultimate might look like. So if you guys have any ideas about that, please do let me know in the comments. It'll be interesting to see what you guys think before he comes out. Just voice your ideas down in the comments. But anyways, that's my thoughts on the upcoming characters that we know are coming. But what about characters I think they should add to the game? So I'm going to share with you a couple of characters I think should be in the game and what their abilities might look like. And also, to make this a little bit more interesting, I've got a few of my good friends and Discord mods sharing their own thoughts on what characters they might like to see join the game. So starting off with the first character I'd like to see in Marvel Rivals, it's kind of like a joint character. So like we've seen in the past with Cloak and Dagger, I'd like to see Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now, arguably those two characters can also work on their own, but it might be a bit more interesting to make it a 2-in-1 character since we already have one, and it could open up some sort of interesting utility. Now, right off the bat, we know that there's a bit of an issue with a character like Ant-Man and the Wasp. They work a lot with the Pym particles, which suggests that things need to either shrink or grow, and that mechanic itself might be hard to implement into the game. But I've thought of some ideas of how it could work. So with Ant-Man and the Wasp, I'm thinking the mouse wheel will switch you between the two characters rather than shift, and I think shift works differently for both characters. So if you're playing as Ant-Man, I think the shift button should allow for a giant Anthony to spawn and grant Ant-Man a few seconds of flight before Anthony shrinks back down. So maybe 5 seconds of flight, something like that. And if you press shift with the Wasp, she should shrink down and also get 5 seconds of flight. With this, I feel like every map should be updated to have little cracks or little holes in certain walls that the Wasp can fly through, creating some interesting opportunities to flank. Now, obviously, I think this character should be a duelist, and while in Wasp form, her primary fire will be blasters like that. So shooting from her hand, she's got a blaster. And while in Ant-Man form, he throws the red and blue discs, which would normally make things shrink or expand, but in this instance they'll just hit a target and it will just sort of create this sort of implosion, which will do like fall off damage, like a tiny AoE range, which I think will be interesting. Now, I can't really think of another ability for the Wasp, and I can't think of an ultimate for her, so I'm thinking when you want to go for your ultimate as either Ant-Man or the Wasp, pressing the ultimate button will just force you to switch back to Ant-Man. So when you press the ultimate button, you either press and hold, which will go through a cycle, and if you don't hold it very long you'll shrink, and if you hold it past a certain point you'll grow. Once you press Q, it should give you an option like left click or right click if you want to shrink or grow. So what I'm thinking is if Ant-Man shrinks,
they'll never see this coming.
You can lock on to a close by enemy and just leap onto them and sort of do an uppercut punch or whatever. And it should do a flat out 500 damage, which won't KO every character, but it can certainly do a lot. Now, I think what will make that more interesting is if it's a chain reaction kind of thing. So if there's 3 enemies all standing next to each other, you shrink, jump onto one, 500 damage punch, but you have to be facing, like looking actively for another enemy that's standing in the area to chain off onto, and you can continue punching them one by one. Let's say there's 2 duelists and 1 vanguard with like 8,000 hit points, right? You're going to KO the 2 duelists because they're probably under 300 HP, and then your final jump will hit the vanguard and probably just take out half its health. And then once that chain is done, Ant-Man returns to normal size and you have to wait for the ultimate again. Now, if you grow to Giant Man, you'll be significantly slower, but you'll be able to like smash different areas and cause a lot of knockback damage. And if anyone's in the sort of radius where you punch or stomp, it's either an instant KO or a lot of shock damage. And of course, that will only last a couple of seconds as well before Ant-Man has to return to original size. So there's a lot of cool ideas that you can do there with Ant-Man, and I hope you like those ideas too. I honestly think that there would be a really cool team up with Ant-Man and Hawkeye. Perhaps if you've got a Hawkeye on your team and you look at him, you can press C, for example, on the keyboard, and what will happen is Ant-Man will shrink onto Hawkeye's arrow, and so you'll have this sort of like first person view of whatever Hawkeye is aiming at, and then when he shoots his arrow, it will fire a shrunken down Ant-Man onto someone from the enemy team. Ant-Man will grow back to normal size and probably do some like AoE damage around him, just a small radius though. And then to top it off, maybe there can be an additional team up ability with Doctor Strange. Perhaps you don't want to leave Ant-Man over on the enemy side once you've shot him over, so the team up ability with Doctor Strange would be like a portal that he can just quickly open up for Ant-Man to return him back to Doctor Strange himself, so he'll pull him back with the rest of your team. So that's an interesting idea that they can probably take a look at.
Oh yeah, I got some ideas. Okay. How about this? We need flying characters, I think. Not too many, but we need an alternative to Iron Man. So what if we had a new duelist, the Falcon? I reckon the Falcon would be a good addition to the Marvel Rivals roster. What could the Falcon do? So the Falcon, I reckon, flying character, most of the time, if not all the time, in the air. Probably has one of the abilities would be a speed boost, where you could fly faster, but for a short period of time with a cooldown. Weapons and attacks, well, based on the MCU movies and the comics, there's a range of gadgets or weapons, guns. I heard even maybe a flamethrower or flash grenades, any kind of weaponry like that. Special moves. I think what would be pretty cool is if the Falcon could dive down and then maybe scoop up an enemy player and then carry them a little bit across the map, drop them off somewhere. A lot of tactical plans could form around that idea. And I think maybe for the ultimate, this isn't really shown in the MCU movies, but in the comic books, the Falcon does have a telepathy power with birds. Can communicate and control birds to an extent. So maybe the ultimate would be summoning a flock of birds to do a mad attack. That could be pretty cool. Okay, you know who would be really cool for added to Marvel Rivals? J. Jonah Jameson. I reckon he would be a mad strategist, a good addition to the roster. Maybe he wouldn't have the same healing abilities as many of the other strategists, but there could be a cool team combo where he partners up with Spider-Man, maybe Venom, and he just gives those characters, maybe a slight speed boost, or maybe amplifies their power and their strength a little bit. I reckon he could just be angry all the time, and his anger is just like debuffing the enemy team and maybe like buffing up your team a little bit. So like they get like speed debuffs, power debuffs, but then your team just gets like a little bit stronger, a little bit faster. And he's just yelling, he's just angry all the time. And I reckon like that'd just be funny.
Hey Josh, which Marvel character would I like to see appear in Marvel Rivals next? Oh, so interesting. So many different characters out there, so many different unique individuals out there. The one I'm going to go for, it's a bit out of left field, but you'll know why. I'm going to go for Kraven the Hunter. The reason why I'm going to go for Kraven the Hunter is because if you guys have played Marvel's Spider-Man 2 on the PS5, you'll realize what kind of a beast he is. I will chuck Kraven not as a duelist, but more as a vanguard, sort of a tank. He is a beast. Just his regular attacks will be like hand-to-hand combat kind of thing. Get up and close and dirty with the enemy team, Some special attacks will be he could bring out like his spear, knives, and just, go to town on that. Some weaponry as well. What I'd also love to see is his ultimate would be he gets like a lion's rage or some sort of animal rage, and he can like transform. Like imagine if you could pick to like have like the rhino kind of rage and transform and just run havoc through the defense and everything, or become a lion. Some sort of animal instinct as his ulti where he can transform and just become a tank and clear out the whole thing. The other character that I would like to choose would be Ghost Rider. So Ghost Rider will be a duelist in my opinion, would have some sort of attacks with his chain, throws it out. Maybe one of his abilities would be he can do some flame chain, throws it at the enemy, wraps them up and holds them for about a few seconds and gets a bit of damage on it. One of his ultimates that I'd love to see would be him jump on a horse, like a flaming horse, and literally dive into the enemy team and just burn them and give them like burn damage. Another character I'd like to see come into Marvel Rivals would be Green Goblin. I reckon he'll be crazy. He'll be an amazing character. I'd put Green Goblin as a duelist. The reason why I put him as a duelist is because he's very versatile, lots of movements. His primary attack would just probably be some sort of like bombs or weapons or something, just like, distance type, nothing up close and dirty. Then some special abilities would be he can jump on his glider and like escape the battle. If he's getting, attacked and just pressured from the enemy team, he can just jump on his glider, and he has like a 5-second thing to get out of there, to jump on his glider and just get out, or jump, go to a different area on the map, something like that. Another ability that I would love to do is like pumpkin bombs, him just throwing a bunch, that'd be great. His ultimate, I reckon, this will be crazy. I reckon he could glide through the screen and just bomb away. Like, you get like, you can fly over and just drop pumpkin bombs everywhere and it just explodes, or sort of throw them kind of thing. He's got to do something with his bombs. Those will be the characters that I would choose, that I'd like to see appear in Marvel Rivals next. Thanks for that, Josh.
Now, I was going to think of another character to maybe talk about who I'd like to see join the game, but I don't want this video to drag on too long. But if you like this sort of idea of us speculating potential characters, please do let us know, and we might even create some more videos just like this. I mean, I can think of a couple characters off my head right now, like Sentry or America Chavez. That would be an interesting addition to the game, because not only will you have Doctor Strange, who is able to make portals, but having America Chavez in there as well, creating star-shaped portals, would be an interesting character to add. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as always. We love playing Marvel Rivals here, and if you guys are not yet playing the game, which is one of the most loved games right now, please do consider downloading it. It is a free game. There's so many characters to choose from, and it is an absolute blast. We have a great time every time we play. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but you can't win them all. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. We'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.